Like you said, my presentation is how many plates are you spinning? I just want to start with these videos. Kind of as you're watching, think about which performer maybe you're more similar to with your responsibilities. And the noise is not as important. Okay, so now contrast that with our second performer. We're going to skip ahead in his. Okay, so with that first one, what did you notice? What are some things that stood out to you as you're watching?
Clumsy and unplanned.
Okay. Chaos. So it was chaotic. Did it look like he had much practice, maybe?
No.
Maybe some. He had an assistant even. And even with his assistant, he couldn't manage. The rest of the video went similar to the beginning, so he never got all the polls going. And our second performer, so what were some things you noticed about his performance?
Had a system.
So he had a system of how he was doing it?
I was going to say, he seemed to have a routine, like get one more and then keep the others going, and get one more and then keep the others going.
So there was a routine?
And he took a little bit more investment starting something, and a little bit of investment to keep the other ones going.
So
it was easier to keep something going than
Yeah.
it is to get something started.
So he was organized in his way.
I actually saw that on Ed Sullivan and tried it with my mother's dishes when I was about 8. And I wasn't successful. I was more like the number one.
Yeah.
I got in a lot of trouble.
The inspiration for this presentation was a talk by Elder Hallstrom. It's called Seeking a Balanced Life. So in it, he talks about seeing a performer on the Ed Sullivan show. And as the performer would get going, eventually there came a point where he couldn't keep all of the poles spinning, all of the plates that he had in the air going. And so they would fall over. So that's where this quote comes from. Was after he talked about this. There was a limit to his ability to increase the number and yet properly care for the plates already in motion. The sight of dishes sliding from their precarious perches and the cacophony as they hit the hard floor vividly proved the point that even the most skilled performer has his limits. Each of us must decide how many poles we're able to manage in our life and what they represent. Some individuals are spinning a single plate with all their effort, ignoring all other pulls. Others are attempting to spin so many at the same time that the crashing of plates is often heard. So our second performer in those videos we watched, he probably practiced a lot. He knew what his limits were, so he didn't add that next plate. He didn't try to spin another bowl. He knew what he could manage, and that's where he kept his performance too. So what are some of the plates that we're spinning? Maybe it can be just in your life in general.
Parenting.
So parenting,
Yeah, parenting.
family, church college. We have work. Okay, what else? Or any others we can think of?
Teaching our courses.
Yeah. So I have before that spiritual study. Then we had our full-time job and our online instructor.
It's personal, like staying physically fit.
Thank you. So those were the ones I came up with. But even within those, we sometimes have subcategories. So with our family, maybe we have dates with our spouse. We need to spend time with our children, or going to their sporting events and having family home evening, and scripture study, which kind of falls into that scripture or the spiritual study as well. As online instructors, we have answering emails, responding to discussion board posts, rating. And so even within these plates, we probably have smaller plates that we're spinning as well. And it can get to be hectic or overwhelming. So how do we determine what plates need our attention? And this quote from President Hinckley comes from Seeking a Balanced Life. So first, he says we have a fourfold responsibility. And one is we have responsibility to our families. If we're employed, we have responsibility to our employer. So we can't shortchange them. We need to give an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. We have a responsibility to the Lord, and we have a responsibility to ourselves to take some time to do meditating and exercise, which is why I had those last two on our previous slide of leisure time and exercise. So the theme of this conference is inspiring connections. So as I thought about how that tied into this presentation, I thought we need to know who to connect with at what time. So if it's time to get kids ready for school, we connect with our children. We don't worry about grading. We don't worry about answering emails. If it's date night, maybe we don't worry about our church calling. Obviously, there's church callings that need immediate attention, but for the majority of the time. So what do you think of how President Hinckley outlined these responsibilities? Do you think he put them in a specific order?
Yes.
What makes you say that?
It's President Hinckley.
That's what my husband said too. He said, well, he's a prophet. So obviously there was a reason
like
he
a
did that.
plan for our life. You know, that order is how we should approach our life. And I'm sorry to cut you off.
I've seen people who maybe put church as number one and they don't have a very happy family, and family is really important in the church, and if we want to be together forever, then we probably want to try and be happy. So I know sometimes that it does need to go above family, but for the most part we should make sure that our family is taken care of before we devote a bunch of time to the church.
So I like that. If we're taking care of our family, we are fulfilling church responsibilities. I see.
I know at different seasons in my life, different things on those lists are going to go up to the top, and in other seasons they're going to go down. If I'm early in my career and I'm trying to establish myself and get on a good path, staying good graces with my employer, I may focus a lot on my job. If my kids are young, demand a lot of time. Now that I'm old and my kids are out of the house, you know, I don't have kids to get out of the door every day. I can spend more time in the temple, which when my kids were young was very, very difficult. You know, and so I think different seasons and different times in your life you focus on different things. I don't think that was necessarily meant to be, okay, every day I've got 4 things to do, and how am I gonna balance it? I think it's gonna ebb and flow.
So we need to take into consideration the season and the timing that we are, and maybe these will be reprioritized.
I was just gonna say that's even in the plate spinning, we saw that. He'd focus on the plates that were about to fall down more than he would on starting a new plate necessarily, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yes, thank you.
I think too that that order is inspired because I can see how doing them in that order help, like it trickles down to helping those other ones. You know, if you are working with your family and you have a happy family, then you know going and caring for yourself or going to work is a lot more enjoyable. Being able to take care of your family financially, you know, helps you to serve better in the church and to have resources to be able to serve those around you. And once you have all those things checked off, because I know when I try to meditate and I still have that long to-do list, it's not a very good meditation session, you know, it's always thinking about other things that I didn't do that I still need to do. But when you feel like you've done those things, then you can kind of take care of yourself a little bit better.
Thank you. I like that. So I think, you know, as with my family, I have several church callings, which puts a lot of pressure on my husband. I'm the ward chorister, so my children, I have 4, they sit with him in the bench. And if there's, you know, discord among the family, that would make it harder for me to fulfill my church callings because I'm away so much, or not so much, but not there during the entire sacrament meeting. So I can see how that plan. So again, we have from Ezra Taft Benson. And this goes along kind of with what President Hinckley said. When we put God first, all other things fall into their proper place or drop out of our lives. Our love of the Lord will govern the claims for our affection, the demands on our time, the interests we pursue, and the order of our priorities. So we talk about church callings in our family. Is putting our family first also putting God first? Because that's the responsibility He's given us. So sometimes, you know, as President Hinckley outlined, I think these two go hand in hand. We can turn to the Lord and ask for His guidance. So as I thought about this in relationship to teaching responsibilities, are your teaching responsibilities something that you just cram into the end of the day? Or do you thoughtfully plan out when you fulfill online responsibilities, even though it might be at the end of the day? I started mindfully working just later after my kids go to bed. They're out of school now. I want to spend time with them during the day. And so I have planned my time after they go to bed rather than trying to cram it in during nap time or cram it in right at the end of the day because, ooh, I forgot I was supposed to work today. That, you know, there was a time in my life where that kind of happened, that I had to just fill in the blank spaces of my time. Something else I thought about was when you fill out your weekly reflection reports and you notice there's something on there that maybe you should have done. I don't know if all of them are the same, but for mine, at the end of the introduction week, it says, have you contacted all of your non-participating students? Now, is that something that, it's Saturday at 10 o'clock and I'm filling out my weekly reflection and I didn't say anything to my non-participating students? Do you quickly write that email and say, you haven't participated, either get on the ball or drop the class? Or is it something that you can put on your schedule if you know that's coming up, that maybe on Wednesday, and out of love rather than out of obligation, you send an email and say, hey, you know, I've seen you haven't logged into the class, you haven't done any of the assignments. Is there something I can do to help? Is there something going on? I've had students who say, you know, I just got really sick at the beginning of the semester. I had a student this semester even had a baby, second day of the semester. Still going strong, but you know, as you communicate with them and find out, then you can make those connections and keep the semester rolling. So I've made this little matrix, and so we have some high priority, urgent tasks, some high priority, not urgent, low priority, urgent, and low priority, not urgent. So what are some maybe high priority, urgent tasks. We'll just get a couple and then we'll move so we get an idea of what they might be. Yeah.
Change a diaper.
So changing a diaper, yeah. Certainly high priority and urgent. Are there any others? Think of?
I think with our classes, for me, high priority and urgent is responding to email. Making sure that all the questions are answered so that the students can move along. Because if they have a question about an assignment that's due on Wednesday and they ask it to you on Tuesday and you answer on Thursday, that's not super helpful for them. So I feel like answering emails and questions are urgent.
Thank you. So answering, I'm just repeating for the online. So answering emails and maybe discussion board posts or lesson questions. Yeah.
And I think along with that, as you get through the week, that the 7-day grading deadline, it might start out as scheduled time, but as we move through the week, it definitely needs to.
So grading can go from maybe high priority, not urgent, to that high priority, urgent.
7 days seems like a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe now let's go to low priority, not urgent. What might fall into that category?
Watching TV.
Yeah.
Making things pretty instead of useful. Like if your instructor notes have like 7 billion fonts in there, they're colorful and you don't have to put in that much work to make it useful. So I think maybe putting on the bells and whistles that you don't necessarily need to make it functional.
Okay. So as you're planning out, just kind of think of, that matrix and where you need to put some of those, family probably goes in there. So now we're going to get into the meat. So we have, what tools do we have to help us keep all of our plates spinning? So I have time blocking, and there's these two websites. This first one is comprehensive about time blocking. If you're not familiar with it, it's kind of a scheduling system where you say, I'm going to block out from 7 to 8 o'clock. I'm getting my kids ready for school. I'm not doing anything else during that time. And that's what I'm focusing on. Then at 8 o'clock, I'm blocked and I'm having no other distractions and I'm working from 8 to 9. And so that is what that one is. And if you get the presentation, those are all hyperlinked. The second one, the one thing, and it's time blocking for the people who matter most. And I like that one because it has great reminders about setting up time blocks to spend time with our family. And my favorite, and I'm just going to read this because it's really good. It's value of time off with loved ones. And I said, this time off from everything else is when you are able to reward yourself and recharge so that you're more productive. It's the start of a domino effect. Relaxation boosts your productivity. You get more done in the day, and in turn, you have more time to spend with the people that matter most. When you realize the value of this, it's easy to justify time blocking for time off with loved ones. So, camping or just getting away and forgetting all other responsibilities, and that can recharge you. And it's important to spend time with our families. The next tool I had was a checklist. And so a checklist can remind you of what you need to get done. This can be on paper and pencil if you're not high tech. Did you have a
This was just a comment on time blocking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to mention, I started doing that and just blocking out time for work, my online stuff. But I found that I got so much more productive with it when I blocked out certain activities of work. So this is when I'm going to respond to student emails, and then I'm going to shut my email, and this is when I'm going to grade this particular assignment, and this is when I'm going to grade this particular assignment. So for me, the time blocking, just like 2 hours of work time, I just wasn't quite as productive with it. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, because you're not
really
sure where to focus.
Yeah, and we can let email bleed into, we're grading, and then a notification comes up, we jump over, and yeah, I got way more productive when I was like, shut the email down when I'm grading, for example.
Thank you. Were there any other comments on time blocking? I'm sorry, I should have asked. Okay. So we have checklists. If you're not high tech, paper and pencil is great, or a daily planner can be useful. Or if technology, oops, I went back instead of forward. There we go. There's apps. As they say, there's an app for that. And so you can Google time management apps, time blocking apps. This one that I found is 135list.com. And the premise is that you break your day up into 1 big task, 3 medium tasks, and then 5 small tasks. So you might even break up your instructor responsibilities into that. Maybe your 1 big task is grading a big project. 3 might be email and discussion boards and don't know, sending out supportive emails to students. I'm just thinking of this right now. So, so that was a good one. And Google Calendar is another wonderful tool if you need to coordinate with others. My husband and I have a Google Calendar, and he can put stuff in for me, and I put stuff in for him and for each other and for ourselves. But it'll send you reminders, so you can schedule a task or an event, and then a day before, 30 minutes before, it'll send you a reminder of what you need to do. And so if you're, just day-to-day things, not necessarily instructing. And then we have the weekly planning session. So you can adapt Preach My Gospel, chapter 8. And it's called How Do I Use Time Wisely? And so we may not be setting goals to seek out investigators or get baptisms, but you can still pray and seek for inspiration. You can set your own key indicators, if anyone's familiar with Preach My Gospel. So you have key indicators you can set, and conduct inventory. Weekly reflection reports are a great way to conduct inventory with our teaching group leaders. And then the synergy, or what I like to call simultasking, it's not multitasking, because this is combining 2 or more tasks and getting them both done at the same time, rather than multitasking, which is maybe making dinner and, I don't know, answering a phone call at the same time. And maybe, either one gets done. But, so this comes from a New Era article, Personal Time Management, 1 Key to a Leader's Effectiveness. And it says synergy in the article is combining 2 or more tasks to produce a result that is greater than the simple sum of the individual tasks. So the example they gave was a priest quorum group leader who needed to meet with his counselors to discuss an assignment from the bishop. He wanted to fit in 1 more physical activity for the week and spend time with his brother, his younger brother. So he combined the tasks by arranging to meet with his priest quorum assistants, and they played a game of doubles tennis, and he invited his younger brother. So they talked about the assignment from the bishop. He got that extra activity in for the week, and he spent time with his younger brother. And it says the additional advantage would be that the brother got to know the group leaders, counselors, and the younger brother could learn from them as well. So I'm going to share an example that I had just a couple weeks ago, and kind of be thinking of how you could use this synergy concept in your own life. So we were driving, a couple weeks ago, my youngest sister got married, and so we were driving around town a week later, and my younger son said, "So Mom, were you and Dad sealed at the same time you were married?" And we said, "Yeah." And we kind of asked, why would you ask that? And he had seen, I have another sister who was married civilly and then recently was sealed to her husband. So he's seen, that civil to sealing and then the sealing and marriage at the same time. And we got to our destination, our conversation stopped, and this was on a Monday. We got home, and I found out it was my turn for the family home evening lesson, but it was late because we'd been out at the library having fun. So I decided to do the family home evening lesson during dinner. so that we didn't have to, eat dinner and then do the lesson, get kids in bed late. So as we're talking, I brought up again this concept of sealings and marriages and why we're married in the temple, why we're sealed, and how we can do work for our ancestors. So I wrapped several tasks. I finished the conversation with my son as he told us that he wanted, it was secure for him to know that he could be part of our family. And I know he doesn't just ask questions for questions' sake. He likes to know the nitty gritty. So we finished that conversation for him. We were able to have our family home evening lesson, and we got dinner done, and the kids were able to get to bed at a reasonable time. So that was just one example that, as I was going through and preparing, I thought, that fits right in with what I'm trying to work on. So can anyone think of an example of how they've used this concept, maybe unknowingly, or how you could? It's kind of a tough one. Yes, thanks.
Well, I was just thinking, my daughter is very social. She likes to be out in the world. And it's easier for me to sort of do errands, or if I have to stop by my office, it's easier for me to do it by myself. But it really meets her social needs and helps her feel like, she's having fun if I take her and try to set her up doing something while I'm doing something in the office. So I've tried to, bring her with me whenever I can to whatever I'm doing that's out in the world that is like her excitement and her, what she enjoys.
Thank you.
Something for me, and this is suggested by a university professor I had. I spend a lot of time waiting, and sometimes you're tempted if you have a phone or something to get out and goof around on the phone. I have an article. I know which next article, professional development sort of things usually. This is the next article I'm going to read next time I have nothing to do. And I always have that ready so that when I'm sitting around waiting for my wife to pick me up from work or something, I know what I'm going to be doing. So I think that's sort of
that is. And then you're not wasting time just playing Candy Crush or I don't know what else there is. That's the only one I can think of right now.
I think the only thing I'm good at with doing that is listening to the scriptures or conference talks as I get ready in the morning. That's sometimes the only time that I get by myself to do that kind of stuff. And so as soon as I step out of the shower, I have my phone and I get going, and I can listen to 3 or 4 talks before I'm done getting ready and go for the day.
So combining your scriptural or your spiritual study with the preparation for the day. That's a great example. Yes.
I was just thinking, this is something that we can encourage our students to do too. Many of our students have families, have careers and things. And there was one student in particular, I think it was my first semester when I was teaching here, for the teacher-friend assignments in his pathway class, where he had to talk about what he's been learning that week. Every Monday for family home evening, he taught the lesson, every single family home evening for that semester, and they talked about what we were talking about in class, and and making it appropriate for his young children. And so that was the way that he found he was able to do that. So if we can encourage our students to try to do this too, it can help them with their time management as well.
Thank you. I like that, encouraging our students. Were there any other examples? Yes.
Let's take a different path here. I had an instructor. I needed to have a performance discussion with her, and I also needed to do a course review. So I had her meet me on Adobe Connect, and I had her do a course review with me. So she was reviewing herself based on the instructor standards, and I said, this is a performance discussion. So she knew, and so we got like 2 or 3 things done at the same time. It really worked out well.
Yeah, and then it was all done instead of having to schedule more time. Thank you, everyone, for your examples. That's kind of a tough one to do because you have to think about how you would combine those tasks. So we have managing instructor responsibilities, which we now break down some of those same things. We have time blocking, again, so we had that come up over here. This is a video by Sister Tori Black. If anyone is familiar with her, she's awesome. And so she made this video for her students to show them this time blocking strategy and how to use it, and how she uses it for managing her responsibilities as an instructor. Then at the end, she said, you know, this is what my whole time blocking schedule looks like, which is absolutely amazing. So if anyone wants to go watch that video, again, that's hyperlinked. And then we have checklists. And these are some that I have. Trello is one of my favorites. And I'm just going to click on it. This is one that my husband and I use. And so it has all these little, they're called boards or cards. So you see, I kind of updated it recently so it looked nicer for everybody. But so whenever it just kind of shows what I need to get done every day. Oh.
What is this called?
The Trello, TRELLO.com. And so within that card that I have for next week's lesson, I could go over the course notes, review the portfolio project, and make note adjustments, or make notes for adjustments to the notes from instructor. And so as you accomplish those, it's just a way to do a checklist. Okay, apparently I can't check it because I'm not signed into mine. But you can see how it's set up. I mean, how you can break it down even further. But it's a great way to organize if you just need some way to get it all going together. Okay. Now I don't know what I did. And one thing that I liked about Trello, is that you can make your different cards and boards different colors. So it's kind of cute. And then there's time tracking.
Is that checklist?
Checklist, yeah, with a V. And that one I had, and you can, as you mark things, it'll let you go back, and at the end of the week, you can just say, uncheck all completed tasks. Yeah, which was the benefit of that one. Trello, I haven't found out how to go back and just wipe it all clean. So you may have, if you do that one, make like a lesson 1, lesson 2, and make it. That might be time consuming. But this checklist, you can just, there's a button at the top and it says unmark all of them. So does anyone else have questions about the checklist?
I was just going to say too that sometimes I think we should discount low tech, and I'll just give you an example. Because when I started, I was doing discussion boards, and I had like a nice spreadsheet with all their names. So I was going in to make sure that I, would talk to. I wanted to get everybody, within 2 weeks, so that I'd have it, and then I have to transfer it to my spreadsheet. And finally, I just had like a little clipboard with a highlighter, and when I would, talk to a student, I would highlight it and everything, and that was so wonderful. I could just glance and say, oh, and it was so fast because I wasn't having to close down. And the spreadsheets, I'm getting old, and and I have to look like, is that font check or isn't it checked? And that was so wonderful. And then Tori also taught me, which I really like. She's like a sticky note queen. I kind of borrowed that from her, and I really like that when I'm doing emails. Instead of just making a master list of someone's like, my gathering was canceled, you need to excuse it or something, I'll just put name, And then I have a really wide computer desk. My husband laughs at this, I have these little sticky notes, But there's something really comforting too. I'll excuse that gathering, I'll take that sticky note, put it in the garden, And it's like this visual of like, here's all these things that I have to do, and then they go away. So there is something wonderful, and maybe it's just because I'm old, but sometimes low tech is fast,
Yeah.
I mean,
like,
and forth.
President Uthor talks about simplifying. So you don't have to do these high-tech things.
Yeah.
They're just a great way to keep life organized if you need them.
Even just using the resources that we have, like in my email, if I have a student email me, I'll flag it, and then, or I'll like even mark it as unread, even though I already read it, so that I know it's something I need to do. And my goal at the end of each day is to look in my inbox and make sure I've taken care of everything that my students need, or and I'll even email myself, like, oh, don't forget to do this. Like this morning, I'm like, print your parking pass out, you know. And I'll send those, especially if you're like laying in bed and you're trying to sleep and you think of something, that's a good way to like make sure it gets done. So using simple things like that, like you said, making it easy. It's an unread email. You click on it, you read it, you do it. So
thank you. So let's not forget that paper and pencil, or paper and highlighter, clipboard. I like that emailing yourself. I do that sometimes, but it's usually with passwords. Which I don't know how secure that is, but. So then this next one I thought is time tracking, which is kind of similar to the budget and expense tracking that the Math 100G and L students are asked to do, where for about 5 weeks they track all their expenses and they break it up into different categories. So when they go grocery shopping, that goes into the food category. When they buy clothes, that goes in the clothes category, gas category. And so this time tracking would be every time you go to grade, time, how long it takes you to grade. You enter it in your spreadsheet or on your piece of paper, and then at the end of the week or the end of the day, you kind of see how you're dividing your time. And it can be time consuming, and if you check your email more than once a day, that can get pretty tedious. But it is kind of, I've been doing it this semester. Anna is my TGL, and that was my goal, was to do this time tracking. I haven't sent her my spreadsheet yet though, so we'll see what she thinks when I'm done. And it's been kind of enlightening to see where my focus is during the day, or what extra tasks I think of. I've put in other stuff that I didn't even think of, but I do it and I go, oh, that doesn't go in a category. I better make another category for it. And then there's apps. Again, you can Google time tracking apps. And then segmentation, which breaking up a task into 10 to 15 minute blocks. So if you don't have from 8 to 10 p.m. at night to work, maybe you work from 8 to 8:30 in the morning, and then you work when your kid's napping from 12 to 1, and then after kids go to bed. So the segmentation can help kind of alleviate some of that stress of thinking, oh, I have to get everything done right now. I need to set aside 2 hours, and then that's overwhelming. It is for me.
Just a comment. There is a technique out there called Pomodoro. It's related to the Pomodoro timers, and look it up. It has all to do with that segmentation.
Yeah.
Now, I thought worth mentioning.
Yeah, thanks.
How do you spell that?
Oh.
Pomodoro.
And do you want to explain more about it? I read about it, but I'll let
the basic idea is you set the Pomodoro timer to maximum, which is 25 minutes, and then you give your 5 minutes to get up and do something else, and then do it again and again for the duration of your block. And like after 4 blocks, you give yourself a longer break. But look it up. It's pretty simple.
Oh, yes.
One thing, like as we're going through these, I've noticed it really depends on your own personality, what's going to work for you. And something that was helpful for me was taking the color personality test. I'm sure everyone's heard of it. There's lots of different ones out there. But when I figured out what worked best for my personality, then I could figure out which one of these is going to help me the most. So I'm gold, which is a checklist person. So that really works well for me. But I know I have instructors that are more orange, which is, it's hard for them to make lists. That doesn't work for them. But breaking up tasks into 15 or 10 minute blocks will work better for them, because that's just more their personality. And so as instructors, we can help students figure out what's going to work for them and their personalities. We can figure that out for ourselves, or if we're TGLs or AIMS, figuring that out, helping our instructors figure that out, because different things are going to work. Things that work for me might not work for my instructors, and that's okay.
Yeah, so we can adapt them to what meets our needs as well.
just to build on that, because I was thinking along the same line, that I love all of these ideas and I love all these things, but I think we all have to worry about it becoming fake unto itself.
Yeah.
And so whatever we do, it needs to be fully integrated into our personalities and the way we work, so that it's not just that one extra thing that we're doing. And so, you know, because I would like an Excel spreadsheet, I love it. Every year, every semester, I'm like, yeah, Excel spreadsheet, I'm gonna do it. Never works. And actually, I'm not gonna do it anymore because it doesn't fit with what I do.
And that's great. You know, and yeah, once you can, if you can eliminate one of those plates, you know, thinking, oh, I have to keep this one spinning just because I need to be high tech. No, not at all.
One minute, I'll do it.
Yeah. So, this how to divide our time as an instructor. A good indicator I saw that I found is where the emphasis is placed on our evaluations. And so you can just see that. And I think they're outside the door waiting for us. So I'm going to wrap this up. This quote at the end comes again from Seeking a Balanced Life. And so we can turn to our TGLs, and our weekly reflections can give us a good idea of if we're meeting expectations or not. If we're not, we know we need to make some adjustments. And so anyway, you can, there's just one last slide, but you can check it out online if you want. And it just talks about the importance of good time management. So thanks for coming. I hope you learned something.